those sounds you hear in the beginning are me testing the pause button. I'm I'm recording another episode. I was going to, and I intended on recording episodes. I know I go long stretches without, or it depends on your subjective like interpretation of how long a long time is. In terms of you know a decade, it's not a very long time. In terms of the lifespan of the Earth, it's not a long time. In terms of the lifespan of the universe, it's not a long time. And yeah, so heaven forbid I go a month without uploading an episode of the Evan Button Show. Not that anybody watches these things, anyways. You know, it's kind of a service to myself. I like creating, and I wrote some lyrics, did some recording. I don't know if it'll be out or if it'll ever get released, but um, yeah, I wrote some stuff, man. I wrote a World War One concept album. Uh yeah, I there are some things I wrote about that I was really intrigued by, and then other things. I wrote a song about the just the burning of the Argonne forest, um, and the burning of the Ardenne or the Ardennes, and I just wish that that song turned out better. But other than that, the other songs turned out all right. I recorded the whole album in D open D tuning, so that really was something. And other than that, I mean, it just turned out to be a normal Cascade album, but with a concept, and I wrote it from a lot of different perspectives. One about the Argonne is about um a German soldier being afraid of American flamethrowers. I don't know how accurate that is actually. I think that might be the only inaccuracy with the album. I wrote stuff about ships, planes. Wrote a song from the perspective of a tanker. Um, and his life as a tanker, a British tanker. I have a couple songs from the British perspective. I have one about Gallipoli. Um, there's a song on there. The first one is a German soldier's letter to his mother. Um, then there's a song about Gavrilo Princip. I, for the pronunciation, I looked up the Slavic transcription of the name. And that's why I pronounce it Gavrilo Princip. Ugh, tripped over my words there. Oh, I'm getting congested right now. That's not good. But yeah, I've been recording a lot of music lately, so that's generally how these things go, where it's like if I have plans, right, to do something, it usually sucks out from all the other things I'm invested in my life, and then when that settles, I kind of go back to my even mixture. But um, I went on vacation not too long ago, and I when I got back, I just wrote a shit ton of music, and I'm glad I did that. But um, yeah, there are things that need tending to. Knowledge isn't one of those things that you retain if you don't keep up on it. So I always try to be consuming or reasserting knowledge, practicing verbs, or when I say practicing verbs, I mean verb tenses, other languages, cases, things like that, or reading scientific journals, things like that. I don't read fiction. Like, I don't read fiction books, so I mean, a lot of people sharpen their reading skills by reading fiction books, but that has always been kind of useless for me. So I mean, I do read fiction. Like, I have a big thing of books up here. Oh, it's not big, but it's a thing of books here. I got some good books. I got King Arthur, Treasure Island, Robin Hood. I've got Don Quixote de la Mancha, and I mean, those books are all important to literature history, and there's lots of books important to literature history that I don't have. My favorite book of all time, my favorite fiction book, is Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, and I do have a version of that. I need to get another copy of that though. Um, Yeah, I have a couple other one. I think I have Great Expectations, Pride and Prejudice. Um, I didn't read Pride and Prejudice until I had discovered um, that the ideas involved in feminism had actually intrigued me. And you know, as someone born a male, uh, it can take for me it took a while to get interested in feminism because I thought feminism was inherently anti-man when it it's not. I mean, there are people that use feminism as a vehicle for anti-male propaganda in general, but I mean, I don't do that. I think feminism is important. I have comic books up here too. Um, yeah, I have a lot of things that just scholarly books. Um, I have the Funk and Wagnall's Standard Desk Dictionary. I have Volume 1 and Volume 2. I don't know what year they're published, and I don't feel like pulling them out right now. I also have a Making of Twilight, or um, Twilight Director's Notebook. I think my friend got that for me. I don't think I've ever actually read that. Um, yeah, I have a German dictionary, German phrase book, and I have some other, linguistic books here. Like I have Deutsch Erstes, Deutsch Erstes Book, Erstes, Erstes, Deutsch Erstes Book. Book. Jesus Christ, I usually I speak a good amount of German in my daily life, but not today. Deutsch Erstes Book. I feel like now I feel like self conscious about how I'm pronouncing that like auditorially, right? Whenever I speak German, I get really self conscious because I want to speak the language, right? Because I have a lot of respect for the German language and I love the German language. But yeah, I have a German phrase book here. I've actually never I've only cracked it open a couple times, so yeah, it's just a little thing here. Um, so Gemüse, gehackt, geschnetzeltes, geschnetzeltes. That's a one. Gesel, geselktes. Yeah. Oh, this is menu reader. That's cool. I haven't, you know, I speak a good bit of German, but I don't know everything. It's impossible to know everything. Like there are words I come across. Like the worst thing is when I come across a word in English I don't, or like when I come across a word that I don't know in another language, and then it's like something I've never heard of in English either. Which I mean that's extremely rare. I have a pretty okay vocabulary, so that I mean that's extremely rare, but it still does happen. There's a sport that happened with German. I was reading something in German and I stumbled across the word and I had to look it up. Um, Bear in mind I don't usually really have to do that. I don't have to look words up. Um, Sometimes it takes me a while to piece things together, but having to look things up is kind of like a thing of the past for me. And like actually having to translate is also like kind of a thing of the past for me for certain languages. So, that's what they tell you about. They don't tell you about lingualism. If you're bilingual, I don't really know because I use a multitude of different languages. So, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to say because I don't just use two or three languages. Like I use a lot more than that. And actually, I try to say I try to have a rule where like I don't say I speak a language unless I can use it to great utility, and so that only applies to like five or six languages. Of course, I know words in a whole lot of different languages. I have all these tidbits of knowledge and whatnot, but I don't like to falsely advertise myself because that's how you come across as a charlatan. And I like one of the great fears I have as someone as scholarly oriented as I am, like I don't want to be perceived as a fraud or like taken as someone who like lies about what they know. So I try to keep it modest. In the past, I was known to be a little overzealous with my my praisings of myself, but I've lost that over time, and I really don't like the attention that comes with. I don't like the attention with coming that comes with, you know, bragging about things you don't know how to do, because like if you're around people that aren't specialists, or like, so if I went to, say, if I went to a butcher, like somewhere where they, butcher animals, and I, talked about like medical shit, where, like how termites dying can give you naphthalene poisoning, right? Or, talking about, copper poisoning or whatever. If I talk about that, they're not gonna be like, oh well, they're not gonna contest that, right? But if I'm in a room with doctors and I say something incorrect, then I'm gonna make myself look stupid, because they undergo years and years of training about these things, and if I spew off some nonsense, um, yeah, copper poisoning and naphthalene poisoning are both like completely real things, but I'm not sure of the exact specifications. So yeah, like I try to be a versed person in a lot of things. A lot of things I care about. Like I love science. I love toxicology. I love medical shit in general. But I would never sit here and pretend I know how to run tests on people or anything, or that like I think like if I'm diagnosing something, like if I feel sick and I know my symptoms, um, you know like I've gotten pretty good at diagnosing myself, and like that's another thing I try not to use the internet for, and you know becoming familiar with the material over all these years, I feel like medical school is something I was definitely interested in, so I did a lot of research and shit, but I it is impossible to be 100% right all the time, and there are doctors that, I mean, most doctors, or pretty much all doctors, you know, are better at doing that kind of shit than I am. So, yeah, I would never sit here and pretend like I'm some sort of medical genius, or like that I can, cure anything, or whatever, that I would be the next, um, you know, great doctor of the world. No. So yeah, I don't like playing myself off as that. I also, yeah, I guess it's kind of double edged, because I don't really care how I'm perceived, but like one of the things I do value is my intellectual integrity. I like knowing things that I know and not having to falsify things, and that's one thing I can say I do like 100% of the time, is like I never make anything up. I'm not 100% right all the time on things like numbers, and sometimes I do get confused. It's I try to make it as rare as possible though, and I would like to say I don't spread misinformation. A lot of the time I do. It's when I get um information from another place, and I don't check it myself. That um like, for example, like the word codswallop is a derivative of some word meaning, I think, scrotum or something. But this gentleman had told me something about cod soda and how it led to codswallop, and it turned out to be a folk etymology. And I'm so glad I checked, because yeah, there are a lot of instances where things that are told to me are wrong. Even teachers have done it. Like, I don't know. I try to fact check a lot of shit, not in front of the people, to because that's just downright douchey. But I try to check every single piece of information, and there is a lot of conflicting information, but there is just a lot of general just misinformation out there, and I try to avoid contributing to that. So yeah, um, I would say I am a utilitarian of one English, two Swedish, three German, four Spanish, five Italian, 6 Portuguese, and then 7 French. So probably about 7 languages I can communicate effectively. Um, I put French last, and I mean, I guess I would put that in the iffy category because, like, honest to God, I don't get to practice using the French language a lot, so it would honestly probably take some more work, but I have confidence in myself that I would be able to do it. And I mean, the same goes for Italian. You know, being an American living in Pennsylvania, I only really get to use English and Spanish. The Pennsylvania Dutch guys, I have a very hard time understanding them because their German is so unusual and the dialect is so strange. But they understand me fine. So, yeah. But Germans from Germany, they speak Hochdeutsch. So anybody that speaks Hochdeutsch, I can understand perfectly fine. You know, there are always variables when it comes to linguistics. Like there's this gentleman who lived in Venezuela for a couple of years, and he speaks Spanish. He's a white American, and he speaks Spanish so well. Like he's a far better Spanish speaker than I could ever imagine myself to be. But like a lot of people, when they speak language, they speak very quickly, and like even in English, I have a hard time catching that shit. So, like, yeah, I just gotta work on it. Just gotta work on everything in general. And the whole vocal communication thing hasn't always it's never really been my thing. Hearing, listening, it's always been something I'm not so good at. So when you factor that in with the various linguistics, the various lingual variables, then you get an amalgamation of communication errors before I truly discover some efficiency. But I mean, all of that has culminated in where I am now. I still have a ton of growth to do. So my journey there is never over, and I'm glad it's not because it's very fun. I think learning language is fun. Learning things about languages is also very fun. And for me, next in the future, I might learn a couple other languages, but I'm pretty happy with where I am. I'll probably end up like trying to learn Romanian or something, finish off the big Romance languages. Probably get better at speaking Dutch, and I might try to learn Danish at some point, but I think the chances of that actually happening are very slim. Probably do some stuff with Russian, do more stuff with Turkish or Arabic. Maybe dabble in Greek for a bit. So, yeah, who knows what's next for me linguistically. I'll try to learn something new while still refining my skills, and that's how I learned a lot of the Romance languages. Is I started with Italian actually, and I had been picking up just Italian in general, through reading and whatnot. Then I took Spanish in high school, and the two kind of played off of each other. My Italian wasn't very good, and then my Spanish surpassed my Italian, and then my Italian very recently surpassed my Spanish, only because just I don't know. I invested myself into Italian more, and I just you know and I think a big part of it for me is like when I was a kid, I used to do all these voices, and I used to do all this voice training and whatnot. Like even like no matter what it was for, like if it was for singing or if it was for whatever it was for, I did a lot of voice training. So I mean, I know how to inflect my speech, and I know how to make all these certain sounds, and these sounds, that exist in other languages, but not necessarily English. It helps. It really does help. And yeah, so I forgot how I got here. I forgot how I got to this train of thought. We were talking about books, and when I say we, I mean me. Um, yeah, no, I have a lot of books like that. Um, just, scholarly books. The Chicago Manual of Style, 16th edition. Uh, I've got a couple editions of the Bible. I have the Book of Mormon. That's a cool one. Um, I have the Luther Bible, which is the German Bible. It's written by Martin Luther, Martin Luther. And I have Michael Crichton's Lost World. I think my friend loaned that to me. I gotta give it back to him. Control Freak. 7 Ways Liberals Plan to Ruin Your Life. That sounds awesome. Stuart Little. I didn't even know I had Stuart Little. I have To Kill a Mockingbird. I have the really cool, paperback cover of that. Rhyming Dictionary. I used to use that when I was writing music a lot, but I just, I don't feel the need to rhyme in my music all the time anymore. It's like a lot of rhyme schemes are, especially in modern music, they're so elementary and they sound. I come out with my tool. I'm feeling really cool. I'm going to sit on this stool. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, the quality of music comes from what you write about, right? For me, I don't care about commercial music. I mean, obviously I care about how good something is to listen to, but the genuineness and the overarching themes of whatever compositions is what I care about more. That's why I like Sun Kil Moon and Red House Painters a lot, especially recently, is because I'm listening to these stories Mark Kozelek writes, and they're really personal to him, and I can't even begin to relate to some of them, but they're still beautiful and it's super artistic. So, I mean, that appeals to me. But yeah, I've never been a fan of super commercial music. It's pointless to me. Now, where I stand, I don't know what's coming in the future. I'm going to college. Ooh, shit. Ooh. I must be tired. So, I'm going to college here soon. Which is awesome. Don't get me wrong. But, it's another thing I have to get acclimated to. I'm sure the college itself will be fine. And when I say the college itself, I know the campus I'm going to pretty well. Which is really cool. But, and the classes, I'm sure will be fucking brainless easy. And I'm not a partier. I didn't party in high school. I didn't do any of that shit. And so, when I hear, all these people having trouble with college, and I've taken college courses before, so I already have some credits, I gotta raise an eyebrow and be like, what are you doing? Now, of course, there are classes that are a lot harder than the material I study even in, my personal life, or, that was the big problem I had with astrology, or not astrology, astronomy, excuse me, astronomy and, geology, when I took that my senior year of high school, is I had known a couple things about, I knew, metamorphic, igneous, and sedimentary rocks, but, I didn't know the difference between mafic, felsic. I know the difference between clastic and non-clastic, and then, obviously, even to this day, I am more a guy that knows, elements and not the individual rocks themselves. I know the difference between something like, limestone and shale, right? One is clastic, one's non-clastic. They're both sedimentary rocks. And, yeah, and as far as minerals go, I know fucking, next to nothing about minerals. I know a couple big ones, magnetite. I know magnetite. Yeah, wow. Holy shit, I'm blanking. Azurite, adventurine, fuchsite, or fuchsite. Sorry, fuchsite? But yeah, I know things like that, but as far as, those things go, it's, those, that type of geology is beyond me. Geological history, I love, dude. I fucking, I have everything post-Cambrian, not everything. I have the periods memorized, of course, and I'm working on um getting the order and the actual names of the new discoveries coming out about the Precambrian shit, you know, like with the Cryogenian and the Stenian and the Ediacaran. Not in that order. I think it's like actually the opposite. There's a Tonian, Stenian, Cryogenian, Ediacaran. Um, yeah, I'm forgetting a good number of things here, which is hence why I'm working on it. And then of course the biologies that go along with those geologic transitions. We did a project in my geology that I wish I would have had more time to finish because that thing was my fucking that thing was my passion right there. I put probably more hours into making that website than anyone did into the rest of their project. Not saying anybody. I'm not saying there wasn't anybody that tried as that. I'm not saying there wasn't anybody that tried. I'm saying that I was so invested. I got the Ordovician period, my little section, but I was tasked with making a website for the whole thing in general. And I love coding, so I was more than happy to hop into the HTML and really just dig into it. There was one concept I hadn't been made familiar with that I really, really did want to try to code into it. I was going to have a sidebar to the right, an anchored sidebar, where there was an arrow scrolling with the geologic time period you were reading. So it would be the geologic time scale, and then it would be so it would be just a general like going from you know the Precambrian to the Phanerozoic. You know that would be like the home page, and then you select through. It scrolls down, with all the paragraphs and shit. And then when you like click into the period, or yeah, the periods or the eras or the eons or anything like that, like going into the Proterozoic, you would, of course, you would get the Paleoproterozoic, or is it the Mesoproterozoic? Paleoproterozoic. Is Proterozoic? Um. Oh, what was that sound? Is the Proterozoic split in half or threes? If so, I think it's like the Paleoproterozoic, Mesoproterozoic, and then Neoproterozoic. If not, it's just Paleo and Neo. And then there's the Hadean Eon, and then the Archean Eon, which I think I could have found more things, the divisions to, get those in there. But yeah, so for example, you would have the epochs, or the epochs. See, that's the thing. I've only ever read this word, EPOCH. I've only ever read this word. I've never heard it said. So, like, if you were to click on the Jurassic period, you would get, the sidebar scrolling with the epochs, whatever. How I'm gonna pronounce it like epoch consistently until I learn the actual pronunciation of the word. Yeah, you would get that, scroll. But yeah, I always wanted to try that, but um, I just didn't. I didn't have the time to learn, or I didn't have the time to learn or code that into the style sheet. So I mean, what can you do? But yeah, I got the Ordovician period, and as far as like content of the Ordovician period, um, I love geologic history so much and history itself that I named my first demo EP the Ordovices after the Welsh tribe slash the Roman time Welsh tribe slash the Ordovician period. That's where that name came from. I with naming those EPs, I went the Welsh route at the end, but I kept it consistent. I went Ordovices Silures because the Silurian period comes after the Cambrian, Silurian. Wait, am I crazy? Hold on, I'm looking this up right now. Geological time scale. Was I right? Hold on. The fucking anticipation is killing me. Yeah, I was right. Okay, I was right. Hold on, I had to check myself before I wrecked myself. Yeah, Silurian comes after the Ordovician, and then I ended with Kymru, right? The Welsh name for Wales. I almost said Welsh, but that's Kymreg. Kymreg. Sorry, but yeah. All right, let me close this out. So, okay, Jesus Christ, my ineptitude. Right, I had to make. Yeah, no, I had to make sure I was right. But yeah, so I kept it consistent until there. But yeah, so I already knew everything I needed to know. I knew everything about the oh, I would forget their fucking names too. The names for cephalopods. There we go. Cephalopods. Cephalopods, cephalopods. The only reason I call them cephalopods is because I do believe the Greek word is spelled with a kappa. Cephalus or something like that. Gotta make that ph sound with your lips. Cephalus, I think is the word in Greek. But yeah, and that's how Morgan Freeman says it. I kind of alternate between pronunciations. I do that with some words, and I do that with some vernacular in general. Like torch, flashlight, vacation, holiday. I use vacation more than holiday actually, but yeah, torch and flashlight I use interchangeably. Doesn't make much of a difference. One thing I don't switch though is spelling. Um, pedophile is one of those words that oh Jesus, in my phone, if you spell it with a Paedophile, that it says is incorrect. But I mean, did I say PE? It's PAE for me because I use that kind of British spelling. But I guess the British keyboard prefers just PEDO, which is weird for me because I'm not gonna say it's not correct, but dialectually it's not correct. And there are British people that use PEDO, and that's completely fine and completely valid. But the type of British, the type of British vocabulary I use is not, it's like encyclopedia. Actually, perfect example. Like, yeah, I just don't. Ugh, I don't like it without the A, E. I like things to look nice. Like maneuver. Maneuver is one of those words in British English that's a lot different than the American counterpart. But like it looks nice, so I use it. And I mean I've been using British English forever, so it'd be impossible for me to flip. But yeah, back to the Ordovician period thing I had to do. Yeah, the cephalopods. I did some research about the prototaxides there, and yeah, just the lineage from the prototaxides becoming becoming what would become the polysporangiophyta and the angiosperms and all that shit. How that little leap there, but I mean, other than that, I pretty much knew everything I needed to know. I knew about Pannotia. I knew about did I say Pannotia? That's what I meant to say, because the big supercontinent thing that wasn't Pangea. Yeah, I knew about Pannotia and the Paleotitus Sea. Paleotetus. It's TH, so Paleotethys, I think, is how a lot of people say that. It's the sea there. What the fuck is the name of the ocean? Panthalassa, there we go. Panthalassa existed for a very, very long time. But yeah, there's Panthalassa, and Panthalassa existed even during like Pangean times, and I think Panthalassa was the name of the ocean because eventually Panthalassa became Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. So not that the the water composition did eventually change because of the split, but because of the continental move. But yeah, so even I think it was still Panthalassa when Laurasia and Gondwana split away from Pangea there. That Laurasia and Gondwana split is a fucking hell of a thing, and it's really cool to look at actually. Yeah, there's been a lot of supercontinents and shit. I've never had them all memorized, but I know a good bit of them, like Rodina, you know, Pannotia, Baltica. Is Terra Australis one of them? I know Terra Australis is is like the Latin name for New no New Holland there. I think that's the name. It's not New Amsterdam. New Amsterdam is good old New York City there. I think it was New Holland. No, of course, in New Zealand, Zealandia. That's another one. Um, yeah, I think it might have been Terra Australis or something like that. But yeah, I have a good percentage of them. Not good percentage, a good bit of them memorized, and then yeah. But yeah, I knew pretty much everything I needed to know. The only things I really needed to do were climate assessments and like how you know plant life had been affecting the greenhouse effect that oxygen was getting, or that oxygen um, outtake was producing, and that happened during the cryogenium period too, Precambrian, because the cyanobacteria had become so abundant in numbers, and I mean you see it in the stromatolites. So like the cyanobacteria had become so like massive in numbers with nothing to eat its byproduct of oxygen, that it created this like super cold planet Earth. And then yeah, that type of effect wasn't ever seen again, even with higher oxygen levels, because higher oxygen levels during the Carboniferous period, I mean it did affect the environment, like for sure, but like it didn't have nearly the same effect that the cryogenium period, because it was just unadulterated, just fucking cyanobacteria. But yep, I really am sad that I put all that effort in just for it to mean nothing in the end. I bit off more than I could chew. Um, what ideally would have happened was, so we were scheduled to make road signs, right? And have this little area from the New York border to this little place riddled with road signs like that signified you know, geologic time, like condensing the geologic time scale into like signified with road markers, and that was intended to be our project there. But alas, it never got finished. I finished the formatting for the website, but we never got any content uploaded. Damn shame. And ideally, what I would have liked to like if I could go back and do it now, I would talk to Pete, my science teacher there, and get started on this idea my freshman year. Now, granted, take this with a grain of salt, because I took webpage design after I had already gotten interested in coding. So I knew pretty much all the coding except for the CSS. Or I didn't know all the coding except for the CSS. I had a really good head start on the coding minus the CSS. And then I repicked it back up sometime before my junior year started, and I really hammered away at learning different types of coding. So I can do C++ and Python too, but like HTML I can't think of anything super big that I don't know how to do. And so yeah, this with a grain of salt. I went back in time and started this freshman year, and then seen if it would have taken all the way to my senior year to actually like complete. We were given a lot of methods to try to condense this whole big ass project, And I like the song idea, but I mean, I can't really write a song about geologic history. Or at least I don't think I can. Hold on. I got my guitar just for this. All right, I'm gonna try to do this like on the spot right here. 485 million. Dude, my fucking phone fell. God damn it. I don't record on my phone. It's just I have it here just in case something happens. All right, let's give it another go. 485 million years ago, the planet underwent serious change. The creatures looking stranger than before. Nothing we would recognize. Everything started to modernize. Evolutions to make the plans to go onto land for the first time were set in motion. If you weren't a shellfish, you were in inherent danger. If you were anywhere near the equator, the heat would surely dry you out. Still have a couple million years yet before we have any chance on the alien planet to make it on land. There you go, there's my little improv Ordovision period spiel. I can't even remember the name of the main like chordate. I think the Devonian period had the Tiktaalik Rosae. It was either the Devonian or the Silurian, I think. I could be wrong, but yeah, I don't think tetrapods were like a thing, you know. I mean, obviously they could have been a thing, but I don't think they were like. I don't think they were making the leaps and bounds to become things like Acanthostega and Kamara. I think Kamarastega might be one of them. I know there's Camaraceras, one of like probably the biggest cephalopod to ever exist, because Orthoceras was like 3 meters long or something like that. But yeah, I'm upsetty spaghetti. I never got to finish that, but that's okay. Maybe in the future I can publish something for science, or because I love science and I think science is great. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm tired. You heard me yawn earlier in the episode, and yeah. Play another song, maybe. Yeah, sure. Yeah. don't play that song much actually. But yeah, before I get started into another live from album, I'm out of here. Deuces.